Hello. How's everyone doing? My name is Keith. I am your meditation teacher here on this channel, Meditation Breaks. Anyone returning, welcome back. Anyone new, welcome for the first time. Here on this channel, we talk about meditation from a lot of different angles. Hey, Pat, missed you too. It's good to be back. We talk about meditation on from a lot of different angles because there's a lot you can do with it, and I think that it's kind of cool. One of the coolest things about meditation is how versatile it is, right? And how no matter why you're interested in meditation, learning it or continuing to practice it or whatever, the concepts and method that we go about doing that with meditation is the same. So it travels well, right? It's versatile. Cool. Oh, what the hell? How you doing? Okay. So for anyone that's new and you might be like, oh, this is already I feel like maybe I got to start at square one. We're gonna. So each class, even though we have a topic that we cover, I always start with an introduction to meditation. I don't know if you want to call it 101 or something. So we're going to start like that. We'll talk a little bit about what meditation is, how does it work, should we bother doing this? We have finite time, and each day should this be part of our day? And then we'll do a little breathing meditation together that'll get everyone situated with, okay, this is how you go about meditating. And then we'll talk about our topic and do a little meditation on that topic to close out the evening. So that's kind of our little cadence for today and all days here. Okay, so if you do have any questions, anything comes up, you have maybe something I said wasn't clear, you want a different analogy or something like that, you can just type in the chat anything, comment, question you have, and I'll stop what I'm doing and answer it. You don't have to wait for me to be like it's question time. So just fire those questions away. If you think of something after the class is over, no big deal. I will give everyone my email towards the end of today's session, and you can email me anything that comes up. Cool? All right. So what is meditation? When we say that word, meditation, I feel like two things happen, right? Number one, your kitten is joining us. Incredible. Adorable. Welcome, Marina's kitten. So when we think about this word, meditation, two things happen. One is we're like, oh, we have this image just kind of pop into our mind of somebody sitting on the floor, with their hands like this or whatever, cross-legged, and they look really peaceful, right? And that's the second thing, like this idea of relaxation, right? So kind of sitting on the floor with our eyes closed, right, in a particular posture, and relaxing. These are like the two main identifiers that we have with meditation. You can sit on the floor with your eyes closed to meditate, but that is just a way to do it. Relaxation is a benefit that you can get out of meditation, but it's not the only one, right? So these, I call them kind of our generic images of meditation. These are a good base, but they're not actually the definition of what's going on here. So a definition that I think is a bit more true to, hey, Zach, I'm doing good. How are you? A definition I think is a bit more true to what meditation is and what it's trying to accomplish is that it is a technique that you use to train your mind to become familiar with stuff. Right? So your mind is becoming familiar with stuff all day long, every moment. And we don't go around thinking that way. We're not like, my mind is becoming familiar with this new idea. Hey, Antonio. But it's happening. And so what we can do is look at some examples of this idea of familiarity, right? Familiarizing ourselves with something in an avenue that's a little less kind of, I think, obscure for us, right? So think about something that you're really familiar with, like an activity, right? Maybe like tying your shoe. I don't think I've used that one in a while. It's my go-to. You are all incredibly good at tying your shoe, right? I'll go out on a limb and make that guess, right? Why? Right? You weren't always good at it. You were not born being an expert shoe tire. In fact, you were born and you had no idea that shoes were even a thing, let alone that there's this single string that you need to ornately tie to fasten the shoe on yourself. So, what happened in between you not knowing shoelaces exist or how to tie a shoe, right? And so trying that is really complicated. You probably can't remember the first time you tried, but I can guarantee you it wasn't easy, right? In between that and now, where you're like this, prodigy of shoe tying, the only thing that has really happened here is familiarity, right? Repetition, practice, everything, both mental, physical, mechanical, required to tie a shoelace. You have become so familiar with that something really interesting happens. The activity that once was pretty complicated or required a lot of mental effort or focus starts to just kind of come naturally, right? So this relationship, right, between familiarity and the output of this thing that you're familiar with becoming really like coming naturally to you, that is our like superpower as humans, right? And we have a lot of examples in our life that we could probably think of where we're familiar with something, but it also is true for mental, right? Not just physical. So mental familiarity operates the exact same way. So if you think about relaxing, being peaceful, right? That's like a mental mind state, right? Peacefulness. And we often associate meditation with relaxation. So is meditation relaxing you? Is it like if I meditate, I'm relaxed? Not really. What's actually happening is meditation is training you to become really familiar with relaxed you. Right? We all have relaxed us in there. We, of course, want it to come out more often. That's why we're here. And we can do that. We don't have to go get anything new. We have everything that we need. All we need is to just become so familiar with relaxed us that what happens? Same as tying your shoe. It starts to come naturally. It starts to show up without as much effort, without as much concentration. It starts to just be our default, right? And this is where we can see like really lasting change from meditation. Maybe we've heard that before, like meditation, it's a great way to like, really, bring happiness into your life or whatever. It can. And this is how, right? Because it's based on this concept of familiarity. And mental familiarity goes both ways. So when we think about something like anxiety, that's why I originally got into meditation, or anger, right? Anger is a really good example because we don't have to try to get angry. It just happens. We don't say, hold on, let me try to get angry. It happens so fast, right? Because our mind's really familiar with getting annoyed. It's more familiar with getting annoyed than being really patient, right? And so patience takes extra effort. But just like anything else, we can start to choose what our mind is familiar with. And that is our goal. That is the gift of meditation. That is why, it's so beneficial to learn it, is that you start to gain ownership over what you want your mind to have come naturally to it. All right? Cool? Okay, so great and all, but how do we do it? So whenever we start learning meditation, generally, almost always, we start with what's called breathing meditation. And all that is a meditation where the focus of our meditation is our breath. So you can have the focus of your meditation be anything. It doesn't have to be your breath, but breath is a great way to start for a number of reasons. Most, I think, is that it shows you that you don't really need specific conditions, right? You have this, you breathe all the time, right? And so if we can start to get familiar with using our breath as this kind of catalyst to get connected with being calm and peaceful, we start to feel like we can do this wherever we need to, which is fantastic. We don't need to go to like a mountaintop. We don't need to go on a 3-month retreat, right? We got everything we need, right? So breathing meditation is a really good foundation for all different types of meditation. So we're going to do that together now, and I'll explain a little bit how this is going to happen, but I will be leading the meditation, so you're not going to be on your own. Breathing meditation, more formally, is called single-pointed concentration. Single-pointed concentration on your breath. What does that mean? Focusing on one thing. Single-pointed concentration. We are concentrating on one thing. This is not something we're really familiar with, right? We might not identify with being multitaskers, but we all multitask. We're expert multitaskers, right? I'm moving my arms while talking. This is a multitasking, you know? So what we're going to do is actively not do that. And we're going to focus so exclusively on our breath that something interesting is going to happen. All of the normal busyness in our mind, what am I going to do? Work tomorrow. I have this project coming up. Oh, I forgot that thing. Whatever your mind is kind of like gravitating to. Those thoughts, they're going to kind of fade into the background. It's almost like we don't have as much room in our mind for them because such a huge portion of our mind, our mental effort, is going towards focusing on this one thing, our breath. And the byproduct of that is we kind of relax a little bit, less busyness, calm, a little quiet, right? So we are going to do a little breathing meditation here together right now. And it's going to be 3 steps. The first step is we're going to choose to do this. Sounds ridiculous, I know. But we often accidentally meditate, right? Maybe you're like really diligently working on something at work. What happens? You lose track of time. Your knee pain goes away, right? We're like in a meditative state. But we didn't really plan on doing that, right? And so when we're training our mind, we want our mind to become really familiar with this. We want to make the choice, and all that means is setting an intention. I am going to focus on my breath, and that's it, to the best of my ability for the next couple of minutes. So that's step 1. And then we're going to do that, and I'll be leading. And then step 2 is whenever you notice that your attention is no longer exclusively on your breath, doesn't matter what it's thinking about, if it's drifted for just a second or like you're way down a rabbit hole, whatever. Anytime you notice that, we're just going to be like, not right now to those thoughts. That's our little saying here. You can even imagine yourself putting them to the side. These thoughts aren't bad, right? They're not intrusive. They're not wrong. They're not unhelpful or whatever we think. They're thoughts, right? Our mind thinks. We're not saying that they're, not good. We're just saying, not now, right? We are taking ownership over where our attention is. Right? So that's the second step. So we choose to focus single points in our breath. We notice when our attention drifts. And then step 3 is we just bring our attention back to our breath to the best of our ability. And that's a little cycle that we're going to keep doing over and over again for about 5 minutes. And that's breathing meditation. Right? So let's give it a shot. You may notice that I'm in a chair. I'm not sitting on the floor. You do not need to sit on the floor, though you can. I would encourage you to do whatever is most comfortable for you in this moment. Is that laying down? Go right ahead. Is it sitting on the floor? Cool. Chair? Cool. Whatever. Doesn't matter. You can even stand. I don't know. I don't usually opt for that one, but feel free. Just make sure you're relatively comfortable and you can go ahead and close your eyes. This will help with some of the visual distractions. And we're going to do a little breathing meditation together. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, it's good to take a moment and check in. Ask yourself, what's my mind up to right now? How am I feeling? Maybe you're feeling a little tired. You had a long day. Maybe you're feeling energetic, melancholy, or happy. It does not matter. We are not doing anything about this assessment. We are just noticing. You're being an observer of your own mind. This is a technique that's crucial to something called mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts moment to moment for the purpose of being able to respond skillfully to those thoughts. So take a moment and check in. Observe what your mind is up to. Having done that, you can now make a choice, a promise to yourself, set an intention. And that intention is to focus single pointedly, exclusively on your own breathing for the next couple of minutes. Just make that promise to yourself. And with that promise at the forefront of your thought, you can go ahead and turn your full attention to your breath, breathing in and breathing out very gently, very naturally. There's no reason to change anything about how you normally breathe. No need to take big, deep inhales, and no need to forcefully exhale air. Just breathe however you normally do, in and out, gently, naturally, and let yourself relax a little bit into your seat. At some point, often rather quickly, you might notice your attention is no longer exclusively on your breath. Maybe it's thinking about something that you have to do later after this class, or perhaps you're thinking about something that happened earlier. Whenever you notice that your mind is drifting in this way, no big deal. We can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. Imagine yourself placing them beside you, and then guide your full, undivided attention back to your breath, back to breathing in and breathing out, very gently, very naturally. We're single pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. See if you can follow every single moment of breathing. Can you follow the air? Can you watch it as it enters your body whenever you breathe in? Can you feel your chest expanding to make room for this air? And what about when you exhale? Can you follow the journey of the air there as well? You feel your chest contract. Watch, observe as the air travels out of your body, back into the atmosphere. Watch it dissipate and mix with all the other air pockets. A moment-to-moment interest in breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever you notice it drifting. Doesn't matter how many times you need to do this. These 3 steps, choosing to focus single pointedly on your own breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and then being able to guide your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to tap into its natural peaceful state. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing that you want to focus on is breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. So just for the last few moments, continue to breathe and just enjoy sitting here, relaxing. Take a little time for yourself. Okay, and whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. So that's breathing meditation. I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of breathing meditation. That's a pretty straightforward one. There's nothing fancy there. And it's 3 steps, right? Now, just because something's 3 steps doesn't mean it's that easy. And just because something isn't easy doesn't mean you're not good at it. It just means you're not familiar with this, right? So sometimes we can have the reaction, oh, my mind is all over the place. I'm not good at meditating, right? We are all equally good at meditating. Right? Some of us are just more familiar with doing it than others. And the only difference there is just practice, right? It's just doing this enough that your mind goes from, hey, why are you focusing on one thing when I can focus on 1,000 things, to being like, oh, we're gonna do the focus on one thing now. Okay. Right? So we got to train our mind to kind of get behind that idea. And that just comes with time. That's it. There's no real trick to it. Cool. Okay, so that's breathing meditation. If you do have any questions about it, you can feel free to ask me. I'm going to move on to our topic for today, which is all about self-image, which is a personal topic for me. It's something I struggle with a lot, and I think it's something a lot of us struggle with. And so today we're going to talk about what self-image is, how does it develop, and impact our lives, and how can meditation kind of help us start to understand what our self-image is and maybe make some positive changes if we feel like we need to. Cool. So what's a self-image? Right. So I like to think about self-image as the version of you that you believe is the real you. Right. It kind of is based in what attributes about ourselves are permanent fixtures of our character, not flexible. This word flexibility is something that comes up a lot in meditation, and a lot of the things we're trying to do is find flexibility where there does not appear to be flexibility. So a self-image doesn't really appear to be flexible. It's like, I am this. For me personally, I'm just using me as an example. This might not be you, but we all have our self-image things. I procrastinate a lot, and so I often associate that with being lazy, right? And so the first time that I put something off, way back in the day, I did not say, "Oh, I'm so lazy." Yeah, that came over time, right? That came over repetition, right? Of self-talk. Every time I would, put something off, then I would think of myself in this way, right? And saying like, "Oh, I'm so lazy," is implying that I, Keith, me, the very essence of who I am, is inherently lazy, right? So this is an example of something that has become a fixture of my self-image, and it appears not flexible, right? I'm not saying like, I was lazy today. That's not how I'm talking about myself, right? It feels permanent. Cool. So you can think of a self-image as like over the course of our life, over the course of the things we've become familiar with, things we're familiar with talking about ourselves, like in a way we talk about ourselves. We are crafting a persona. We're crafting this concrete, fixed version of us, and we believe that that's the real version. Good so far? Right. Maybe you don't have, like, procrastination's not your thing. Maybe opposite, right? But whatever you're here for, maybe it's, maybe you're feeling really upset, right? Sometimes if we're feeling really upset, we're like, I am so unhappy, right? I, Keith, the essence of Keith, is unhappy. So these words, the way that we're talking about ourselves, is really important. And it is the basis of how we start to craft this fixed version of ourselves, right? So how does this develop? And we've kind of like really touched on this already, but and this is why meditation is such a really awesome self-help tool for self-image, is because self-image comes from familiarity, right? So like, for me, who has been kind of talking about myself in the I am lazy kind of way, right? If I were to say, like, if I were to like just close my eyes and be like, I am lazy, that rolls right off the tongue for old Keith. I don't have to really dig too deep for that one. It kind of just sounds right, because I'm so familiar with that, concept of myself, right? Now, if I were to say I am determined, like right away, I'm like, I don't know about that. That's what I think, right? Now, there are plenty of times in my life where I have been determined, right? Probably equal to procrastinating, but I don't really think about those because I am way more familiar with the negative side than the positive, right? We're all more familiar with our shortcomings for the most part, right? And that's because we dwell on them a lot. We don't really celebrate our wins as much as we do our losses, right? And as a result, we're really familiar with thinking in that way, thinking of ourselves in a negative way. And so what happens? The same as tying your shoe, the same as learning how to drive a car. Over time, it becomes almost natural to think that way. And our self-image is created, right? Cool. So you can probably imagine how this might impact your life. It makes, I think overall, the way I like to think about it is that it makes things feel, it limits what we think is possible, right? We feel rigid, fixed, not flexible. We can't change, that kind of thing. Like it's setting limits to what we can do. But as we were talking about earlier, kind of our like superpower of being human is that we can train our mind to become familiar with stuff. All the things that we are familiar with is learned behavior. We can learn whatever we want. So changing the way that we feel about ourselves kind of starts with this this realization that the concrete version of ourselves that we think is the real us is a lot more flexible than it appears, right? And there's a couple ways that we can start to commit this to memory. So I want to talk about 3 different ways that we can start to cultivate a more positive self-image. And I know not everyone has this issue, maybe, you have a really good positive self-image. You've put a lot of effort into that. But this is just maybe a different way to think about it, right? Or how to use meditation to help with that. So the first, and we talked already about this a good amount, is changing the way we talk about ourselves, right? So again, and when I say like, I am so lazy, right? I'm associating Keith, the essence of me, with that kind of output. What if instead of saying I am so lazy, I said something like my mind is experiencing laziness, right? It's a slight shift, but what's being removed? This this persona of ourself, like we're removing it. My mind, not my mind, right? Somebody, man, I wish every time I teach this class, I say, I wish I could remember who gave this example because it was so good. They said they like to say, my mind is experiencing some technical difficulties, which is amazing. Like we're putting a little humor into it, lightening the mood. But the concept is the same, right? We're removing I from it just a little bit, right? When I started learning this was really tough for me because it seems really corny, right? It seems really cheesy. Like, oh, okay, like my mind is experiencing whatever. But after I kind of got over that, I started to realize it's really helpful. And it's kind of the basis of what we need to start doing if we want to adjust our self-image, because we're so familiar with talking to ourselves, about ourselves in a very specific way, right? And until we start to break that habit, it's hard to become more familiar with another way, I guess is how I would put it, right? So maybe you're, feeling unhappy. Like instead of saying like, I am so unhappy right now, like, my mind is experiencing some unhappiness. Okay? Subtle change, but really important for starting to chip away at the armor of our self-image, right? Cool. So we have that in our back pocket. We're starting to change the way we talk about ourselves and to ourselves. Second really helpful tip that I think meditation can help with a lot is what I'll call like a perspective check. So when we are unhappy, we're in a funk, we're like, down or we're sad or whatever, right? It's a very acute feeling, right? Our mind is very wrapped up in it. We're like totally, what else can we possibly think about? In this moment, one technique that is really helpful, I've found it to be super helpful, I use it all the time, is think of your best friend in the whole world, whoever that is, right? Doesn't matter, like for you, whoever like your best pal is, think about them in this exact same situation, right? Whatever's making you unhappy, they are experiencing those exact same feelings, the same people are involved, everything is exactly the same except it's happening to them and not you. And they are coming to you and saying, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. What advice would you give them? This is a really powerful exercise because it illuminates like something like incredible about our mind and our self, how we view self. Our feedback to our best friend who's experiencing a problem is not like, well, you're inherently an unhappy person, so there's not really much you can do about it. Right? We don't like, we're not saying that. We would never say that. And so what we say, Sandra, thanks for the sub. I appreciate that. So what we would say is something a lot more compassionate. Hey, you're going through a thing right now. You're going to get through it. All right. Hey, maybe you're like upset about something that happened at work. Like, nobody even remembers that. Like, we're going to give advice that is a lot more reasonable, objective, compassionate than what we would tell ourselves, right? And so why we're not lying to our friends, right? We're not like, actually they are really inherently unhappy. Like we're not lying to them. It's just that we can think more clearly when the kind of storm is over their head and not ours. So this is a great way of checking, hey, how much of my kind of feelings about what's going on are based in self as opposed to other, right? And if you do this exercise and you come up with like whatever response you would give your friend, what about trying to take that advice for yourself? Why would we not take that awesome advice for ourselves, right? So this is a really good technique. We do a lot of meditations on it because I think it's pretty cool. And then the third is this idea of recognizing flexibility. So this is like the third kind of meditation step for positive self-image. And it's all about this idea of recognizing that our mind, what the characteristics of ourself, what we are capable of becoming familiar with, is way more flexible than we think. Right? And I'm not going to go too much into this because we're going to do a meditation on this step right here. But just suffice to say that all the things we're talking about are all kind of geared towards this ultimate recognition that self-image, though it seems concrete, actually is more flexible. It's learned, and we can learn a different way of viewing ourselves. Cool. I know that's a lot of information, but it's a really cool topic, and I think it's one that we don't have to think about meditation as being like a good way of identifying what our self-image is and what we might do about it. But just like we did with our breath, when we focus single pointedly on something, we will sometimes start to notice some things about that focal point that we hadn't really thought of. Like with our breath, sometimes we notice, oh, my shoulders are moving, as I breathe. That happens all the time, but we don't really think about it. And so meditation is a way for us to start to look a little deeper into some of the things that we do, including self-talk, including self-image. Cool? Okay. Any questions on that before we do our meditation? Okay. If you do, don't worry. We'll talk later. So we're going to do a meditation, and we're going to start it pretty similar to how we started the breathing meditation. Essentially, breathing meditation is like I almost always use it as like the starting point of a meditation. Why? Because if our mind is super busy, it's hard for us to kind of like have any deep realizations or thoughts about anything. Our mind is just like all over the place. So breathing meditation is really great for pacifying the busyness in our mind. And then we're going to use that more pacified mind to think about some of the things we talked about today. We'll do a little meditation on that. All right. And when we kind of shift gears from the breathing to that, you don't have to really do anything different. It's the exact same concept. We're just focusing single pointedly on this idea of recognizing flexibility instead of our breath. Single pointed concentration. That's like the real essence of meditation. Okay. So go ahead and get comfy. If you want to change your seat, now's a good time. And go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to do a little breathing meditation followed by just a quick kind of little contemplation on some of the things we talked about. All right. Once again, take a moment and check in. How are you feeling right now? We're not comparing it to before. Before is done. Just now, in this exact moment, what's your mind up to? Just observe it. And having checked in, you can once again turn your full attention to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out gently, naturally. And whenever you notice your attention drifting, no longer being exclusively on your breath, you can just say not right now to those other thoughts. Place them to the side. We'll get to them later. And then guide your attention back to breathing. Back to following each breath in and out. Breathing in and out gently, naturally. As you start to plug into your breath, really single pointedly focus on breathing. You may notice some things about breathing that you hadn't really noticed before. Things that were always there, but maybe just a little bit subtle. Maybe you notice how when you breathe in, the air feels cool temperature-wise. How interesting. And when you breathe out, well, that air feels a bit warmer, doesn't it? Interesting. Your shoulders, they rise when you breathe in, and they fall gently when you breathe out. So many subtle, interesting things about breathing. So many subtle joys about such a simple activity It's breathing in and breathing out very gently and very naturally. So, having spent some time relaxing our mind, pacifying some of our thoughts with breathing meditation, we can now use that more relaxed mind state to think about something. So, we're going to do a little contemplation together. And all that means for you is just focus on what I'm saying and just enjoy. I'd like you to bring to mind the following scene. You are in a park. Just you. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. There are no clouds in the sky, just boundless blue. Every direction you look, blue sky, nothing but. Just imagine it. And while you're sitting there and enjoying looking at the blue sky, you start to see some clouds rolling in. And more still, to the point that there are clouds all in the sky now. The sky is gray. Just imagine it. Use your imagination. When we look up at this cloudy sky, what do we say? We say the sky is cloudy. The sky is cloudy. Is that true? Is the sky cloudy? The entire sky? If you've ever flown in a plane, you know that eventually you go up and up and up, and no matter how many clouds there are when you're on the ground, eventually you will soar above them. And what does the sky look like above those clouds? Blue. That same boundless blue sky is up there. Clouds do not have the power to destroy the sky, to make it cloudy. The sky is never cloudy. The sky is merely experiencing some cloudiness. If we went up in an airplane, we could see that the blue sky is still there. It's always there. It never goes away. It's just obscured by weather. Your mind, how you view yourself, very much the same way. You are naturally peaceful, naturally compassionate, naturally kind, naturally thoughtful, and thinking objectively, calm, all those wonderful attributes. That is you. That's your blue sky. Feelings of unhappiness, feelings of frustration, feelings of laziness, procrastination, whatever we think of ourselves, these are like passing clouds. They are not permanent fixtures. They are just habit. And if we take time and meditate, we can find our own blue sky, even when there's clouds. We can start to recognize that the things that we think about ourselves are more flexible than they appear. We can start to dictate our own self-image to one that is positive, resilient. So just for the last few moments, I'd like you to just think about what it would mean for you, for your day, for your week, your life, if you could start to think of yourself as the blue sky. And all of those feelings that you have, instead of them being permanent fixtures of the sky, they are just weather passing through. What would that mean for you? How would that benefit you? Okay. And when you're ready, you can relax, open your eyes. Welcome back again. So we started the same way with some breathing meditation, and then we kind of transitioned into a little thought, like visual experiment, right? But we're meditating, right? So the only thing for something to be meditation is that we are choosing to focus on it single pointedly. We are noticing when we are no longer doing that, and we're bringing our attention back. That's it. It doesn't matter if it's our breath. It doesn't matter if it's an idea or a concept or a visualization. All of that is meditation, equally as powerful, equally as helpful in teaching us how to become familiar with the things we want to, right? Cool. Oh, Marina, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I like that one. It was nice. Cool. So that's it for today. Hopefully you found today to be enjoyable, relaxing, or thought-provoking, or any and all of those. If you did, I encourage you to come back next week. Each Wednesday we do a live stream, and we'll talk about some other meditation topic, right? So come on back. And a big thank you to Sandra and anyone else who subscribed during the today's session, and whoever chooses to do so later. I really do appreciate that. Big help to me. Lets people know that people are, let's Google whatever the algorithm that is Google. Notice that know that people are interested in this, and then more people can find helpful ways to start a meditation practice. So thank you for doing that. If you are like, hey, this is super cool, I'm into this, right? I do private instruction. So if you are like, you know what, I really want to focus on my anxiety and how meditation can help with that, the one-on-one kind of private sessions are really great, because we can just totally, gross ourselves in that one topic. Whereas here we like to kind of spread it around to show the breadth of what we could do. So if that's interesting to you, or if you just even have a question, all right, that comes up when you're trying to meditate on your own, email me. All my one-on-ones are done virtually, so it's pretty low key. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. It is keith@meditationbreaks.com. Okay, there it is. That's my email. Feel free to email me anything, any question, or if you are interested in doing some private work, private meditation classes, or even I do a lot of stuff for corporate. So if you're like, hey, I got an idea, I'm going to bring Keith into work. That's a double win. I don't have to do any work and I get to meditate. That's great. Everyone wins. So anything you want to reach out to me about, there's my email. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to be here. You're the best, and I love teaching, and I couldn't do that without you. So thanks for dedicating so much of your time to be here. All right. And I'll see you all next week. Take care.